Okay, a little more about the extracellular matrix of bone and why. Because in addition to collagen fibers and ground substance, extracellular matrix of bone is full of mineral crystals that make the extracellular matrix hard. In bone, calcium phosphate combines with calcium hydroxide to form hydroxyapatite crystal. You don't need to know any of these formulas. I just put them in. The collagen fibers combine with the hydroxyapatite crystals to form the hard extracellular matrix. So here we see in this picture the hydroxyapatite crystals surrounding the collagen fibers, creating mineralized collagen fibrils. Collagen fibers are strong and flexible. They resist bending, stretching, and twisting. Hydroxyapatite crystals are very strong and resist compression, but they are brittle. And together, collagen fibers and hydroxyapatite crystals form bones that are very strong, slightly flexible, mostly incompressible, and a type of tissue that resists shattering. I quote Martini, in its overall properties, bone can compete with the strongest steel-enforced concrete. Okay, periosteum and endosteum. Bones are covered by periosteum, around bones, and periosteum has an intercellular layer and an outer fibrous layer. This is similar to perichondrium. The intercellular layer is called the osteogenic layer, and the outer fibrous layer is composed of dense irregular connective tissue. The osteogenic layer contains osteoprogenitor cells that can divide and differentiate into osteoblasts. The osteoblasts build bone and help make repairs after injuries. The fibrous layer supports the bone and attaches it to tendons, ligaments, and surrounding tissues. The fibrous layer carries the arteries, veins, nerves, and lymphatic vessels that supply the bones. So periosteum has very important function. Okay, the collagen fibers of the periosteum are interwoven with the fibers of the extracellular matrix of the bone and the fibers of the tendons and ligaments attached to the bone. These interwoven collagen fibers are called perforating fibers, and the bond made by these perforating fibers is so strong that a very powerful pull on a tendon or a ligament will break the bone rather than break the fibers. Endosteum is a single incomplete layer of cells that covers the inner surface of bones. It includes osteoprogenitor cells, osteoblasts, and osteoclasts. It's similar to the intercellular layer of the periosteum. Bone, blood, and nerve supply. The periosteal arteries in the periosteum supply blood to bone through perforating canals, right? These tiny little canals. But there are also larger nutrient arteries that pass through holes in the surface of the bone deep into the center of the bone. The larger holes in the bone that these nutrient arteries pass through are called nutrient foramen. Foramen's a word for like a hole. The nutrient arteries pass through the nutrient foramen and go to the center of the bone and divide into branches. The branches supply most bone tissue from the center of the bone outward. The periosteal artery system and the nutrient artery system connect and anastomose with each other. But it is actually the nutrient artery going to the center of the bone that is responsible for bringing more blood and therefore oxygen and nutrients to bone than the periosteal arteries. Here's a picture of what's called a long bone, and it shows the periosteal arteries going in through the what's called the cortex of the bone or the outside of the bone, and those periosteal arteries and veins are heading towards the center through these tiny perforating canals. But meanwhile, there's a nutrient foramen that's bringing in a nutrient artery that's branching into many, many smaller and smaller vessels. And the small vessels are going from the center of the bone outwards towards the surface of the bone. And the periosteal arteries and the branches of the nutrient arteries are anastomosing or connecting with each other, forming a really rich vascular supply. All right, now just a word. on the nerve supply to bone. So sensory nerves are actually found in the periosteum and the endosteum, in the ends of bones, and in the cavity inside long bones. And therefore, injuries to bones are very, very painful due to this extensive uh, innervation by sensory nerves. That's it. That's just a word on the nerve supply to bone. I've never broken a bone, but well, actually once I did. One tiny, tiny little bone. But it's painful. When people break their bones, it's known to be painful. All right. Compact and spongy bone. There are two types of bone, compact and spongy bone. Compact bone forms the outer layer or cortex of bone, and spongy bone is found in the middle of bones. Spongy bone completely fills all bones except for long bones. In long bones, the spongy bone is only found at the ends of the bones, but not in the shaft. We'll learn more about long bones. Compact bone is dense and heavy. It resists forces parallel to the bone. See, I have a red arrow there showing forces parallel to the bone. Spongy bone is lighter than compact bone. It makes bones lighter overall and easier for muscles to move, therefore. Spongy bone resists forces from more than one direction at a time. And see, I have some arrows there showing forces from more than one direction at the same time, because there's one pointing from 11 to 4, and then there's one pointing from 3 to 7. So there's some forces there. Spongy bone looks like a sponge, but it is not soft like a sponge. It is as hard as compact bone. Spongy bone is formed of trabeculae, which are bone branches. This is not the last time we'll see the word trabeculae. So remember, it's a word for branches. Okay. The arrangement of the trabeculae in the spongy bone follows the line of stress on the bone. So the actual lines of spongy bone can be seen to follow the lines of stress. Between the trabeculae in spongy bone are just open spaces. Now, of course, in real life, we'll find out that they're full of bone marrow. But if that bone marrow isn't there, there would just be open spaces. All right, okay, now going deeper into our understanding of bone, osteons. Osteons are complex cylindrical structures found in compact bone and in larger trabeculae and spongy bones. Osteons consist of osteocytes in lacunae, canaliculi, concentric lamellae, or layers of extracellular matrix, a central canal, and perforating canals, which are actually not shown in the drawing to the right. Osteons look somewhat, if you cut them in cross section, they look somewhat like a tree trunk that has been cut in cross section. So they're quite distinctive looking. So osteons contain concentric layers of osteocytes in lacunae. As above, the osteocytes are connected to other osteocytes by cellular extensions that pass from one lacuna to another through canaliculi. Where the cellular extensions come in contact with each other, they're connected by gap junctions, channels between the cells. And the junctions allow the delivery of nutrients to osteocytes that are not close to the blood vessels in the bone. So that last bit was a repeat from above. Lamellae are layers of the extracellular matrix surrounding the osteocytes. The extracellular matrix contains those mineralized collagen fibers and ground substance. Now, lamellae occurs in osteons, and when it's in an osteon, we talk about lamellae as concentric lamellae or circular layers of extracellular matrix. But layers of extracellular matrix are also found in the spaces between osteons, and in that case, those layers are called interstitial layers because inter means between and stitial means tissue, so they're between the osteons. And then there are circumferential lamellae, which are layers of extracellular matrix found on the outer surface of bone. But for explaining the structure of osteons, we can just think that there are concentric lamellae or circular layers of extracellular matrix that are found in the osteons, making the rings that look something like tree rings in the osteon. The central canals are at the center of the osteons, and therefore the concentric layers of the osteocytes and the concentric lamellae are surrounding the central canal. The central canals run parallel to the surface of the bone. Each central canal contains an artery, a vein, a lymph vessel, and a nerve. And these central canals carry these structures throughout the hard structure of the bone. As noted above, perforating canals carry arteries that branch from periosteal arteries into the bone. Perforating canals connect central canals to each other. Perforating canals run perpendicular to the surface of the bone. And the blood vessels in the perforating canals eventually anastomose with the blood vessels in the center of the bone. There's a picture of an osteon. And here's a scanning electron micrograph of an osteon in compact bone. Both compact bone and spongy bone have osteocytes in the lacunae connected by canaliculi. Both have extracellular matrix arranged in lamellae. Endosteum covers the inner surface of compact bone, so it lines the central canals. Endosteum covers the trabeculae of spongy bone, so there's quite a bit of similarity between compact bone and spongy bone, but there are some differences. Compact bone has osteons organized around the central canal, but most spongy bone is not arranged with osteons with central canals. The osteocytes and trabeculae receive nutrients through the canaliculi that are open to the spaces between the trabeculae that are fed by inner capillaries. Okay. What we see overall in bone is that blood vessels are coming in, oxygen and nutrients diffuse into the fluid, either inside the central canal or between the trabeculae, and then the fluid brings the oxygen and the nutrients through canaliculi into the cellular extensions and the cell body of the osteocytes. And we haven't really learned about how arteries bring oxygen and nutrients to tissues, so that was just a bit of a preview. We'll certainly learn more about that later.